just settling in. I'd like to welcome you to the Village Council meeting of Monday, February 10th, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Present.
Present. Yep.
Commissioner Palos.
Here.
Here, thank you. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, you have in your packets this evening approval of our minutes from our previous meeting on January 27th. Do you have any questions, comments? If not, I would seek a motion to approve at this time.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed. Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Yes. Consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are routine or have been brought forward at the direction of the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted with one motion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Item A, to approve payment of invoices on the warrant list dated February 10th, 2020 in the amount of $132,052.49. Item B, to approve the supplemental warrant list dated February 10th, 2020 for manual checks, payroll, and recurring order transfers in the amount of $377,093.35. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. Any items of old business to be brought forward to the council at this time? Next on our agenda is the board, commission, and committee recommendations. First is item A, to consider zoning board of appeals recommendation to adopt an ordinance approving a side yard setback variation. Is that you, Commissioner Reed? I won't go through the whole litany because I know you will do so.
Thank you, Mayor Mahoney. I have a couple of items to address relative to this section of the agenda. The first being the one that just was alluded to by the mayor. What are we doing? We're here to consider an ordinance approving the Zoning Board of Appeals case ZBA 2020-1. An application was filed requesting a variation from the requirements of Chapter 1268.02 sub F as in Frank side yards to permit addition to an existing single-family residence. For the required side yard setback is 27 feet. The applicant is requesting a side yard setback of 22.5 feet at the property commonly known as 12518 South Pawnee Road. As noted, the applicant proposes to build an approximately 32 by 49 and a half addition with the setback of 22.5 feet from the side lot line rather than the required 27-foot setback. The existing structure fully conforms to all required setbacks. There is a steep grade at the rear and north side of the property. The property is irregularly shaped with 150 feet of lot width at the front lot line and 226 feet at the rear lot line. However, the side yard setbacks are calculated by the lot width at the existing front building line and not at the front line. The lot has approximately 180 feet of lot width at the building front line. As such, the required 15% setback is 27 feet.
Commissioner, would you like to use this microphone?
Yeah, that's probably.
Actually, if everybody can, just with all these people, it's real hard to hear.
Okay. Okay.
In accordance with section 1264.04 variances, there is a limitation on the amount of a variation that a petitioner can request. Chapter 1264.04E is in it, which states to permit a front yard or rear yard less than that required by the zoning code, but such variance shall not exceed 33% of the depth of the front yard, the depth of the rear yard, or the width of the side yard as required by the code. The proposal is 4.5% variation, is 16.67% of requirement, and within the maximum 33%. During the public hearing, the neighbor located directly south of the subject property expressed concerns about the impact that construction would have on a grove of mature oak trees that spans the common property line of the two properties. In response, the zoning board made a motion to recommend approval of the variance subject let me rephrase that. During the public hearing, the neighbor located directly south of the subject property expressed concerns about the impact. In response, the zoning board made a motion to recommend approval of the variance subject to the condition that the applicant provide a tree inventory and arborist recommendations regarding tree protection prior to council approval. The applicant has fulfilled this condition, and as such, staff is recommending a new condition for approval. Said condition being, the applicant is to work with staff to further refine the tree inventory and arborist tree preservation recommendations during the building permit process in accordance with section 1460.02 of the code. The zoning board of appeals met on Wednesday, January 8th to consider the variance request and voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the requested 4.5-foot side yard setback variation from the required 27 feet from Chapter 1268.02 F and Frank of the Code, subject to the condition that the applicant provide a tree inventory and arborist recommendations regarding tree protection prior to council approval. Are there any questions relative to what I've just stated prior to me making a recommended motion?
Not yet. Is the petitioner present to give any comment? Is the petitioner present?
I'm the architect.
Can you step up to the podium?
There will be a microphone shortly.
You don't need to make any comment, but if you have any comment to make.
I don't have a comment. I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
I'm representing the owner.
Okay.
Tom Knapp, architect.
Thank you.
No questions.
Green light. Debbie, I don't know. Debbie, can you hear me? There's a shot.
Are there any questions from the council relative to this matter? If not, I move to approve ordinance 2020.02 for the requested side yard variance of 4.5 feet from the required 27 foot from Chapter 1268.02F of the Village Code to allow for the construction of an addition to the existing home on the property commonly known as 12518 South Pawnee Road, subject to the condition that the applicant is to work with village staff to further refine the tree inventory and arborist tree preservation recommendations as initially set forth in Group Exhibit A during the building permit process in accordance with Section 1460.02 of the Village Code, and would seek a second.
I'll give you a second.
We have a motion, a second. Anyone else on the council have any questions? Do we have any questions of the architect? Again, it's a 4-0 vote. It's a relatively minor variance request. And then there's also been conditions put on the approval if we so vote to approve. So, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Milovich Walters?
Yes.
Commissioner Polk?
Yes.
Commissioner Pavlonis?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney?
Yes. Thank you. We appreciate you coming to the meeting.
Okay, the next thing I have up on the agenda, I'm sure is something that all of you are here to listen to. I know you didn't come to see my smiling face, so let's do it. The first question I always ask of staff is, what are we doing? The second question is, why are we doing it? All right, here's the first question. What are we doing? We're here to consider PC 2019.0/03, which is a proposed amendment to Chapter 1222 of the Village Code. Chapter 1222 addresses the official village comprehensive plan. The proposed amendment before us this evening recommends the comprehensive plan adopted on December 7th of 2009 be revised to incorporate the Western Growth Area Master Plan as an official document of the comprehensive plan. So the next question, why are we doing it? The answer is this. With the 2016 annexations of Cog Hill, Glen Eagles, Mid-Iron Golf Club, and Ludwig Farms, it's anticipated the village may receive development proposals within the foreseeable future. The village's 2009 comprehensive plan addresses the recently annexed western area as a future study area, but does not identify any land use designations or guide decision makers in what type of development should occur in this area. The village should have a land use plan to help guide both decision makers and developers prior to consideration of any development proposal. The village began working with Housing and Living Associates in the fall of 2018 to develop the land use plan for the Western Growth area. Several public outreach events were conducted, and the feedback received has been incorporated in the draft land use plan. The goal of the plan is to guide the village as it oversees the development of the Western Annex and set expectations as to the type and quality of housing and commercial development that is desired. The plan does not set these expectations in stone, but rather it provides a framework to support future decision-making. The plan also identifies regulatory updates that may or will be necessary to implement the vision. We believe it is essential that the plan provide proper recommendations regarding future residential and commercial projects to ensure that the new growth does not place an economic or financial burden on the village or its residents. The plan in its current form does not, emphasis, does not approve any developments. The plan is intended to guide the Plan Commission and the Village Council as they consider development proposals in the future. The Plan Commission held public hearings regarding the application on November 21st, December 17th of 2019, and again on January 16th of 2020. Multiple residents attended the hearings, and several voiced concerns about the proposed, plan. The minutes of the Plan Commission meetings reflect the comments received and discussed during the hearings. These minutes, along with the correspondence, have been presented to the Village Council for its review. The attached draft plan has been revised to address certain requested revisions. I will only address one of them. The Plan Commission voted to recommend that your draft be revised to address requested revisions to the map in addition to certain other pages regarding maps. The maps have been revised accordingly. There are certain other issues that will be addressed by Mr. Halsey because he obviously is the expert, and I could sit up here and tell you some lies, but they wouldn't be true. So, John, if you don't mind, if you could take it over and address what I have not. Unless you wanted to say something.
No, that's perfect.
Well, AV, can everybody hear me? I know this, or is this mine or all?
We just need to invest in better infrastructure.
I've never been told I couldn't be heard, so I will speak up if I can. If you can't hear me, let me know. I apologize for turning this way. It's kind of dark. Okay. All right. So as this is coming up, so Commissioner Reed does a perfect introduction. That's exactly right. So he laid out sort of why we're here and what we're doing perfectly. So I will introduce myself and go through a presentation. I'll let you know sort of what we got here. I will overview the plan, the content of the plan, and then we'll be able to answer any questions the board might have. So first, my name is John Halsey. The founder of Halsey Levine Associates. We're a urban planning, economic development and design firm in Chicago. We work all over the United States. I started the firm 15 years ago. Before that, I worked for a couple of different private consulting firms. Before that, I was the director of community development for Wilmette. Before that, I worked for the village of Northbrook. Before that, I worked in other cities across the country. I also have a close working relationship and a fondness for Palos Park. I have been working on Palos Park planning and zoning and development matters for more than 20 years. I recognize a lot of people in the audience. I've known you for a long time. I work on the commercial area use master plan. I work on the existing comprehensive plan. I work on several zoning ordinance amendments. I work on development review of several proposed developments along the way, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a close working relationship, but I said I can find this for Palos Park. And it is one of my favorite communities in the entire Chicago region. I absolutely love it, and I know it very well. So when we work here, and when I work here, it's not just an assignment for me. I really do care about this community and try to do the very best for it. So some of the key people that have worked on the project were myself, Michio Marrakeshi. I did all the economic and fiscal analysis, and we also worked with Brandon Nolan from our firm and several other employees who worked on this assignment. It's always something.
Call that the perversity of inanimate objects.
Working for all this legal plan. Meanwhile, while that's getting fired up again, as Commissioner Reed said, we had, for those who have been working on this for more than a year, the plan as it currently exists has been available on the village's website for several months. We conducted several different outreach events, interviewed all the property owners, conducted other interviews to get a better sense of market conditions, did a detailed fiscal analysis of residential, commercial, retail, office, restaurant, and industrial uses to get a sense of current and future market projections of those uses. We held several open houses here at Village Hall. Both of the ones that we did were very heavily attended, and then that rolled into 3 separate meeting dates over November, December, and January with the Planning Commission as part of the public hearing process. So at each one of the events, we've got comment cards. As Commissioner Reed said, we got a lot of those comment cards and provided feedback into the plan based on feedback from residents. So I'm going to give you a quick overview about the project. And again, it's been on the website for months, so you're probably pretty familiar with it. The area we're talking about is what we call the Western Grove area. This is the area, or a portion of the area that lies west of Bell Road. The plan does not include any of the areas east of Bell Road. No part of the village or unincorporated areas east of Bell Road or any part of this plan. So we're only talking about the areas to the west. We're talking about 1,500 acres. As Mr. Reed indicated, it's Coghill, Glen Eagles, Mid-Island, and Ludwig Farm. These four properties comprise about 1,500 acres, 1446. We're not talking about whether they should or shouldn't be annexed into the village or what that's going to look like. They were annexed in 2016 into the village of Palos Park. So they are in the village proper. These are several large tracts of land under single ownership. That's a really unique opportunity. You'd be hard pressed to find in the Chicago region 1,400 acres that belong to a community that didn't have any governing plan that were owned by only 4 entities. It really is a very, very unique situation that we're faced with. So we had a series of open houses, like I said, key person interviews and property owner interviews. This is done up on the public website where people would provide feedback, and we had 3 public hearings, meetings with the Plan Commission over the last 3 months. Some things about the plan to keep in mind. The plan does not change any zoning. All right? This is not regulatory. As Mr. Reed indicated, this is part of the comprehensive plan. So we have addendum to the existing comprehensive plan. Your existing comprehensive plan is over a decade old. And what a comprehensive plan is, the best way to think about it is it's a foundation for decision making. It's not a subdivision code, it is not a zoning ordinance, it's not a building code, it is not a proposed development. It is a plan through which the community can use to help make decisions in the future. Or it's a guiding document. It doesn't change the zoning. So it doesn't change the zoning on the ground. The zoning on the ground right now is R1A, and this does not change the R1A zoning. If someone wanted to come in and buy a property zone for R1A, they could build on it. As long as they know the zoning code, they could pull a permit and do it as of right. Okay? Design development guidelines and regulations. After the plan is adopted, in whatever form it's adopted in, we're then going to do 2 things right away. Develop design guidelines to ensure the quality of anything that gets built. What are the design guidelines for the public areas and private buildings to be built? We want to make sure that anything that's built, regardless of the product, is a very, very high quality. These design guidelines will require that. We want to examine your planned unit development ordinance. A PUD ordinance you already have in your zoning code. It's a chapter in your zoning code. It allows someone to come in and propose a development that deviates from the underlying zoning standards, similar to the variation request we just heard and approved here this evening. Because of some circumstance, they were able to allow a deviation from the underlying zoning. The PUD process you have right now in your ordinance allows that. But we think that PUD ordinance needs to be tightened up and improved to apply to the Western Grove area, because it never had to approve or apply to this area before. So we want to amend your PUD ordinance to make it better and more robust and reflective of what we recommend in the plan for the Western Grove area. Some of the things that will also impact is capital improvements, exaction fees, use fees, capital improvement planning update, and infrastructure requirements for new development. This plan will help inform all those things which are yet to take place. And so we'll also take a look at reviewing and update your subdivision regulations. So this plan does not change any zoning. It is simply in addition to or an amendment to your existing comprehensive plan, which you currently have. The current plan is over a decade old. And right now your comprehensive plan, as Commissioner Reed indicated, doesn't provide any guidance for areas west of Bell Road. Back when the plan was done over a decade ago, it simply said at a time this area is annexed, the village needs to develop a plan. Well, it's been annexed 3 years ago, now we're developing a plan. So this is in accordance with the plan you've had on the books for more than a decade. So we'll give you a framework as to the overview. There's a residential framework and a commercial framework. We really focus on a couple of different things. For residential framework, a variety of housing product, not all just one thing, but giving the ability within the plan for flexibility to reflect desires of current and future populations and market conditions in a high quality but a range of products, not all the same thing. We also focus on the notion of conservation design. One of the hallmarks of Palos Park that truly differentiates in terms of its character from communities throughout the region and other parts of the country is the natural environment you have here. It's stunning. If you look at somebody in downtown Chicago, blindfolded and drove for 40 minutes and took the dog off here, they'd never guess where they were. It's so not akin to anything else in the region. But you have a lot of ravines, you have a lot of creeks, you have heavily wooded areas, mature canopies of trees, you got some wetlands, beautiful natural features that we think should be prioritized, protected, and incorporated into any new development. That notion is called conservation design. And right now, it's not part of your existing PDD ordinance. It's not part of anything that governs the western growth area, but we think it should be, so it's a driving force in the plan, and I will go through that. Those are the two things that really govern the residential area. The commercial area, we look at three different types or areas of commercial. We look at retail centers, and there's a few of them, primarily on Archer and on Bell. We look at a golf resort, which is sort of a unique commercial, downtown village century sort of use near where the clubhouse is, sort of something in that area, like a high-end resort, shopping, dining, spa, sort of a real nice pedestrian-oriented area at the heart of what that resort complex will be, a golf destination. And then the potential for a business park, for sort of a landscape, beautifully campused business park. Not heavy industrial, but like an office type of a park. And those are the three different types of commercial in our framework. So I'll go through those pretty quickly here. Just a second. So you'll see, let's see. These areas outlined in blue, you see this area up here, this major area here, these are both on Con Hill. And you see Waterwood Farm, and then you see Glen Eagle. These are sort of the four general areas where we would anticipate residential development, all right? With a variety of housing on conservation development. We've also identified areas of really significant conservation development around some of the wetlands. We show where the open space and the golf course will be going forward. This plan does not wipe out and get rid of the golf courses for the notion of a destination golf resort, but actually builds on that going forward. So that's not all going away. The commercial areas, like I said, focused on three different types of uses. We've got retail centers on Archer and Bell. These two. We've got that sort of golf resort, downtown village center, pedestrian area here in the center of the development. And then we have this area here identified in this triangle as the potential for sort of an office research park, landscape campus, sort of office types uses in that location. Another thing that we stress in the plan is parks and open space. We prioritize the preservation of the extensive tree canopy that exists, the establishment and the maintaining of tree buffers or landscape buffers that exist along major roadways or adjacent to existing development in the area. So any new development will be shielded by these protected buffers. And then the notion of conservation design and integrated open space, that wherever possible, any development that comes forward has to prioritize the protection and preservation and conservation of key features and incorporate that into the design of any development. We also go through transportation. We want to make sure we enhance multimodal access, so walking, biking, and vehicular. We suggest a lot of different connections that we think we need to be made, and we propose several different cross-sections for roads, so to the extent possible, we maintain that rural, low-key cross-section into the development and recommend improvements for Bell and McCarthy Road when those developments are made at some point by DOT. We do not want this to be an isolated development. If you come over here and you buy a house somewhere on Cog Hill, but you want to be able to bike and network or walk around in the woods, you maybe make your way down to a store or a restaurant on Bellevue Road by where Mid-Iron is. We want this all to be connected by trails, walking trails, bike trails. We want this to be a very integrated area in terms of transportation and personal mobility. We don't want it to be a series of gated communities where people can't get around, just the opposite. So this indicates some of the key connections that we've identified, some of the key intersections that we think need to be improved. We also want to prioritize connection to the CalStat Trail and other regional trail networks, and as much bicycle connectivity as we can get to the extensive trail network that exists in the Forest Reserve District. This is one of the region's top recreational mountain biking destinations, without question. So this shows in the plan some of the connections that we anticipate being made as development comes online. So it comes across as a very integrated western growth area and not a series of isolated, separate, non-connected developments. So I want to go through what the notion is for conservation design, because this is a key theme. And to pick up on what was already been said, after this, we want to go back and tighten up and improve your PUD ordinance. Right now, there are no standards in there per se about conservation design, and we want to change that so we can actually put some teeth to this. So conservation design is sort of a neighborhood approach. It preserves open spaces and natural features. It has pockets of more intense development rather than sort of homogeneous development wiping out everything. All right, you don't want to come in and clear cut or chop everything else into lots that cover the whole area, but we want to say this is a valued natural stand of trees. Let's protect it and count an open space so you can't take those trees down. If they were on someone's private property, they can probably come down. So we want to protect the environmental features. You can be density neutral, so you can preserve large areas of land and keep the development on the areas while preserving what's specified naturally. It's the most common type of development when you try to do environmental preservation and protection. You share association or ownership or public ownership of these large natural features, so they are maintained and protected in perpetuity over time. And that just is not the aesthetics of a tree canopy, but the necessary ecological systems that those things provide. Stormwater mitigation, natural hazard mitigation, natural irrigation and absorption of stormwater, wildlife habitat and densely forested or heavily wooded areas. The key is to protect these, not only because they look nice, but because ecologically they have a very serious function in the field. And by having this traditional 1 acre development, for instance, if someone were to come in and have the whole thing just chopped up into 1 acre lots, or all private ownership, it's all private ownership. There's no publicly held common lands that would be preserved for environmental purposes. Historically, the 1 acres in the village, a lot of it was due to the need for well and septic, which is not an issue going forward as a necessity. These are illustrations of conservation design. This is not a proposed development for the Western Growth Area. There is no proposed development for the Western Growth Area. But this is something to illustrate the notion of what conservation design is. So you'll see a tract of land, you see it on the left and the right, it's the same tract of land. You can see these naturally heavily wooded areas in dark green. One solution is to come in and put a big loop road, everybody gets 1 acre or more. Everything is held under private ownership and it looks like that on the left. The other idea is to, what is over on the right, and that is to have the same number of units, have it on a fraction of the land under private ownership, and then you have all the areas that preserves the wildlife meadows, the heavily mature trees, the creek corridor. These are all protected open spaces, same density over the entire development, but in one you preserve 60% of the land for open space, and the other one you don't preserve any of it for open space. Even the car developed this area. If you think people in Palos are pretty minded about the environment, there's a book called Design with Nature. You can probably check it out online. It's written by a planner named Nick Carr. He's the grandfather or the godfather of environmental planning in the United States and echoed his work across the world. But look up Ian McCart, Design with Nature. This notion is called suitability analysis, where we first identify the areas that are not suitable for development and take them offline. And say we're protecting these for other things that are not suitable. Then you see what's left over, which is suitable for development. That was sort of the grounding for conservation design. So here's another example, okay? So you've got the area off of the same piece of property that heavily developed. You can see the water coming through here, the creek. You can see the heavily developed mature canopies in the dark green. And then the light green or the yellow is areas that could be developed or prairie land. So on the far left, you've got traditional 1 acre lot. This area, you've got 18 lots and 18 acre piece of property. All right, and none of this whole in common open space. You've got the middle one there, which is our age-targeted community. In this example, 33% density increase is now has 24 lots, but 60% is undivided open space. So the middle one actually has 24 lots. First one has 18, no open space. The middle example has 24 lots, a 32% increase, and 60% of the land is protected. And the last one, you've got 36 lots, even smaller ones, and over 70% of that land is protected as naturalized open space and environmental features. So what this demonstrates, again, this is not a proposed development, it demonstrates the idea of conservation development. And the reason we put it in the plan, that if in the future development is proposed, and it comes to the Plan Commission for public hearing, and residents are legally noticed, and people pack this room to hear the developer's proposal, one of the things the plan says is, how are you doing your job to incorporate conservation development, protect those environmental features in wooded areas and wetlands and prairie land in your proposed development? And if the answer is, well, we're not doing anything, we're going to wipe it out, they likely won't get approved. So, for the first time, the plan has the notion of protecting these features. This is one more, even more, concentration development, another example. This isn't this here, but I'll give you an example from the region Prairie Crossing. It's in the Chicago region, it's out west. It's a mix of single family and condominiums. Lot sizes range from 5,000 to 15,000. Total number of units is 411 units in this existing development that's on the ground. There's 359 single family lots. There's 59 condominiums. The residential amounts to 135 acres, or 20% of the development. Commercial industrial is about 11%, 73 acres. And open space is 470 acres, or almost 70% of this development. But the density is 3 dwelling units per acre. And 70% of it is open space. Here's a plan for what Prairie Crossing looks like. And that's what it looks like right there, protecting the waterlands, the natural prairies, the creek corridors, and the mature canopies of trees. So 3 dwelling units per acre, 70% open space. So there's examples of this across the country and in the region actually working very well. So here's examples of what some of Prairie Crossing looks like. So in the developed areas, you might get back to the condominiums, where you can see the single-family homes backed up against the water, and then the trail system that goes throughout these beautiful natural areas. Again, an example of conservation development. Housing choice and development density, this is another thing we looked at. Just a little background, we heard it throughout, some people said 1 acre zoning. Undeveloped Palos Park is currently zoned R1A, as is the western growth area, but less than 1/3 of all residential units in Palos Park are on lots of 1 acre or more. So 2/3, it's about just shy of 70%, 68% or something of residential properties in Palos Park are not even an acre. They're smaller than an acre, some significantly smaller than an acre. So I know there's sort of a romantic notion that everything in Palos Park is 1 acre lots. It's not. Only about 1/3 are, 2/3 are not. So there's more that are less than 1 acre than there are that are 1 acre over. And I don't think people recognize that or necessarily know that. So one thing to look at housing choice and development density. So the plan recommends desired gross densities ranging from 3 to 6, depending on the development. Village code accommodates development within this range currently, right now, even if we don't do anything. All right, and I'll go through some of that in a little bit. And Palos Park already has several developments of this density, and I'll go through those right now. So again, we're not changing the zoning, even if we didn't change the PUD. Right now, the village's zoning ordinance through the PUD process accommodates developments in the ranges we're talking about, and they exist on the ground now. And only about 1/3 of lots that do exist are 1 acre or more, 2/3 are not. So otherwise, 4 dwelling units per acre currently exist. Here's pictures of it already in the village. Brookside, 5.6 dwelling units per acre. The Commons, 5.2 dwelling units per acre. And the core, including the assisted living piece, is 7 dwelling units per acre. So again, these are examples of, again, there is no proposal, but even the existing Palos Park, the sort of the core area, the older area, historic Palos Park, has majority of the homes are not single-family 1 acre lots, they're less. And you have developments that exceed the ranges the plan would even accommodate. So there's a mix of development types and residential neighborhood types and unit types that currently exist that reflect a lot of what we're talking about in the western Gulf. So one of the things we did before we did anything was do fiscal and market considerations. We wanted to make sure that this plan reflected market realities and a realistic, viable development. We also wanted to make sure that any plan that was approved going forward was guidance for development that might be proposed that didn't put an economic burden on existing village residents or village services and overtax them, not only just in terms of monetary taxing, but the delivery of services and infrastructure to any new developed areas. We had to make sure it didn't do that. So a comprehensive fiscal impact analysis was done before we did anything else. We prepared detailed market studies that looked at residential, retail, office, and industrial uses. The plan is informed by key findings and a fiscal impact and market analysis. We looked at everything from linear foot of utility extension, school impact fees, police, fire. We looked at everything. So we have a matrix looking at every component and variable of fiscal impact and development. Unit size, price point, market, everything. And again, we weren't trying to propose a development We just wanted to make sure we had a threshold that was viable in terms of marketplace and viable in terms of revenue for the village and not hurting the village financially. So the plan is informed by key findings and fiscal impact and represents sort of a smart growth approach to planning. Smart growth development is a more efficient use of land, it's a mixture of homes and businesses. Compact uses are located closer together as opposed to spread way out. Better connections between streets and neighborhoods. Conventional development is a less efficient use of land. Homes, schools, and businesses are further separated, and designated areas are primarily for driving. It's easier to service a road that goes into a clustered area where maybe half the land is all natural open space, and the homes are all in one area, as opposed to the same number of homes being spread out over 3 times the area. The infrastructure needed to service that is huge, and the cost is through the roof. So by providing pockets of development and larger areas where services don't have to be provided, it's a much more efficient delivery of services to the areas where development does exist. So smart growth by even slightly increasing densities in certain areas, you can significantly fewer costs associated with infrastructure. So again, if you can run your infrastructure a certain distance and service 50 homes as opposed to servicing the space 50 homes over 10 times the length of infrastructure, it's easy to see why it's more expensive. Smart growth development patterns will save the village operating costs and deliver services including police, fire, and public works, the stuff that's underground. By more closely aligning new development with market demand, it actually needs to increase municipal revenue per acre. By putting something on here that isn't market viable, the price will continue to come down over time of the land, and delivery of services to that area will go up over time. So it's just not viable. And it'll be detrimental to the village. Some changing demographics to keep in mind in terms of market considerations. The changing household size. 1 and 2 unit households are the only ones that are increasing. That's 2 person, that's 1 person. 3, 4, and 5 person households are all decreasing. 1 and 2 person households are increasing. And so one of the things that's interesting is that a lot of people think of single family households as a widow or somebody fresh out of college or isn't in the workplace, yes, but 65% of single person households are working age in the workforce. 65%. That number really surprises me. So 65% of the people who live in a single-family household are working. They're not retired, they're actively engaged in that community and working. I think that's an important number. It surprises me. But we have to look at these types of things when we look at development over the course of 10, 20, 30 years in an area. The other thing to take a look at is consumer preferences. People want smaller lot sizes. The trend is pretty clear. So there is a growing trend, has been for a while, where people want smaller lot sizes as a choice, not because of what's available. When given a choice of what's available, they opt for, or an increasing number of people are opting for decreased lot sizes. And then we need to ask people, look at national trends as to what people consider, key considerations when they're looking at purchasing a home. And if you talk to people 55 and older, the top one is, I want a smaller home. 5, the biggest. Next one is, I want lower home maintenance. That's the next one. The third one is, I want higher quality home. I think that's important. Just because you're going from a single-family detached home to a condominium doesn't mean you're lowering your quality of life. You may be increasing your quality of life. You're changing your lifestyle. You're going from a single-family home on a lot to a condominium in a building with common areas. You're changing your lifestyle, but your quality of life, I'm going to say, I want to go up. Okay, it's not like, well, there's some comfortable apartments that have been around since the 70s, you can always move into those. Then I'm not only changing my lifestyle, I'm changing my quality of life. So providing really high quality, smaller homes with lower maintenance are the driving force or consideration of purchases for 55-year-olds and on up. So these are market trends. These are things we can't ignore. To develop a plan that flew in the face of these trends is just putting your head in the sand, and it's going to be producing a plan that is not economically or market viable now or in the future, and it would not service the village well. So what I got to do here, Mr. President, or excuse me, Mr. President.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. But the overview of the plan is a snapshot, the process picking up what the Commissioner Reed said as to how we got here and why we're doing it. I tried to go over what the elements of the plan were. It will serve as those guideposts when the village, the plan commission, or board level review a proposed development. I want to underscore we're not changing the zoning. I want to underscore we are not proposing any development. I want to underscore there is no pending development that anybody is aware of. This is simply an amendment to and an addition to your over 10-year-old comprehensive plan. And back when it was done 11 years ago, it said, when this area is annexed, you've got to develop a plan for it. So this is fulfilling the recommendation of your 10-year-old comprehensive plan that says when you annex, develop a plan. This is nothing more than a plan for the existing comprehensive plan, an amendment that will help the plan commission, developers, staff, and the board review, evaluate, and decide on future developments as they come forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, John.
John, you touched on this a little bit, and I'm going to, I'll have the council members ask any questions they want, but the one question I wanted to ask, if you could, you touched on this, but can you amplify on what process, say we've got a development plan, we have a developer that is interested in property in this area. Can you take me through what that process looks like?
You bet. So, any development that's going to be going through this area, the developer comes, the first thing they need to do is come to staff and have a pre-application meeting with staff to go over what their idea is. And then, once they sort of get everything figured out, they then need to have a pre-application sort of presentation and filing with the village board, so the village board is aware of what's on the books. They need to have a meeting with the public, the neighbors, to go over what is happening. They then have to apply for a public hearing at the plan commission. Okay, they can't do anything until they get approval. It has to be legally noticed, public hearing, and before the public hearing can be conducted, the property is notified, notices are allowed, and the application in detail has to be on file and available at the village. So if they're proposing something or scheduled for a public hearing, anybody in the public can see their plans, okay? Then they will have a public hearing in front of the plan commission, just like we did over November, December, and January for this plan. The developer would get out just like I am, they'd say, well, I'm going to go through our proposal in detail. You're going to go through everything. Public has a right to comment, plan commission has a right to comment. They can ask the developer to change things, they can ask the developer any questions they want. If it goes to the plan commission, in whatever shape and form, the plan commission makes a recommendation to the village board, all right? Their recommendation can be, we vote to deny this, we don't like it. It can be, we vote to approve it, we love it, or we can say, we vote to approve it, subject to changing this and this. So the plan commission recommendation then comes down to the village board then has a public meeting where they take testimony again before anything is approved. And then once it's approved, then once they get all the permits and stuff in place, they can begin to do that. So it's a very lengthy process, a very public process, a very transparent process at a time in which any development is proposed. No one's proposing anything yet. The biggest consideration, or one of the considerations the developer will have to meet is the plan reflective of the values and direction in this Western Growth Area plan? Are they providing high-quality development? Are they doing conservation development? Is it a market viable thing? Have they preserved open space? These are things that will be in the plan, and the PUD process will require that the plan be met. So it will be a tool for evaluating the merits of a proposal, will be this document that's directed by and dictated by the codified PUD ordinance. So that's before anybody can do one shovel or anything or building permit. So all that has to be done.
Anyone else have questions at this point?
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to comment and say it was really interesting to learn about the changes in development using conservation as the core principle to the development. My history getting involved in the village when I moved here started in that arena. And I find it very important, and finding that balance between how to grow gracefully within our community to keep the same feel and appeal is very important to all of us, I know, as well as probably everyone sitting here. So it's nice to see that your field of development has embraced that and are really trying to move forward in that direction. And I think that really fits so well with our community. So I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate that.
And just to pick up on that, I think it's in the document, where the very beginning of the document, we established what we say are our core values. And those core values drive everything in the plan. And one of those is the natural environment, the open space, and mature wood trees. But that is such a characteristic and a hallmark of Palos Park that it had to be a driving component of the western growth area. So was fiscal responsibility and being economically solvent and sound like the villages. That area needed to be as well. And high quality development. Not just anything that was proposed, but high quality, because Palos Park is. So those are three real core values that we said before we do anything, it's these three things. Now let's take a look at the development plan. And that was one of the three things.
And the beauty of all that being in there too is before any developer even wants to come with a preliminary anything, they're going to be reading that area of the comprehensive plan, knowing for a while that they have to meet those things or they won't be considered.
Exactly.
And so, and that's the hope, at least for me, if I'm no longer sitting on this board at some point in the future, who's ever sitting in my stead knows that what we were trying to do here and are guided by it, like you said.
I make some comments.
Commissioner Poblanis.
I'd like to read a report here that I think is interesting, and then most of you will find interesting. This was from Craig Eyre, the director in the building department. It dated February the 2nd of 2007. There was a question asked to the director of the building department, Mr. Eyre, and the question was, how many lots in Palos Park are under 1 acre? And I think you'll find this interesting. Lots less than a quarter acre, 10,889 square feet, there's 495. Lots that are less than a half acre, which is 21,759 square feet, but are 1 acre or more, there's 283. Lots that are 3/4 of an acre, which is 32,669 square feet, but are a half acre or larger, there's 370. And lots that are less than 1 acre, which is 43,559 square feet, but are 3/4 of an acre, 32,670 square feet or larger, there's 329. Lots that are larger than 1 acre are 618. So if you look at the percentage of that, the quarter acre lots that we have are 23.6% of the lots that we have in Palos. The half acre lots that we have are 37.1%. The 3/4 acre lots are 54.8%. And 1 acre or larger are 29.5%. So less than 30% of the lots in Palos Park are 1 acre. Now, most people don't know that. They keep saying we want 1 acre lots here, but we only have 29.5%. If we go into another survey that was done in 2000, this was 2/20 of 2011, and this was done, research was done by Howard Brash, who was our prime surveyor here. Howard says 75% of the lots in Palos Park are under an acre. So this means a lot of variance for smaller lots, so the zoning code became a hardship for many variances. So this is another report that was done that confirms the report that Craig Eyre did in 2007. So I think we all are trying to preserve Palos Park, but it's not 1 acre. It's only 30% 1 acre. And so the quarter acre, half acre, and 3/4 lots are 70% of the existing Palos Park that we know. Now, we all love it, and we say we want to keep it 1 acre, but it's not 1 acre. What we need to keep the aesthetics, and we need to keep the green spaces and the ravines and the creeks, and I think this proposal does that. When you hear cluster housing and things like that, look at the subdivisions that we have already. We have 4. And everybody that lives in these subdivisions at this point are probably 55 and over. So that's a senior citizen housing. It's not Sunrise Nursing Home. This is where people live. They don't have to cut the grass. They don't have to shovel the walks. They can plant flowers if they want, but they can live a lifestyle because they've downsized from Palos Park and they don't want to leave Palos Park. They've lived here their whole life. They've lived here 40 or 50 years, and they want to stay in Palos Park. And one of the things we're trying to achieve here is some clustered housing like that for people 55 and over. It doesn't say senior living, but the majority of those people that will be in townhomes, not necessarily condominiums, but townhomes, will be in a smaller home that they feel is still Palos Park. They don't want to leave here. And I think if you realize what we actually have as far as the lots here, we've done nothing different here. We're trying to preserve what we have in nature and still give the feel of Palos Park. Keep the ravines and keep the trees and keep the hills and the topography the way we have it. And I think we've achieved that. I mean, John has worked on this thing a long time. He's a planner that knows our area. It's not new to it. It's not like he's coming here going, what are we going to do in Palos Park? He's put his heart and soul into this. And I think if you all realize that we're not trying to chop down trees or change the topography, we're trying to keep it. We're trying to keep Palos Park in the western annexation the way it is in this portion of Palos Park. And I think we've achieved that here. So I hope you all feel that way too. I don't want you to feel like we're doing something on this east of LaGrange Road that's not the same as the west end. It's the same. And if you realize the numbers, it is exactly the same thing. So I want you to kind of just think about that a little bit and know that we all live in Palos Park and we're all trying to do the best we possibly can for Palos. But we have aging people here. We want to keep them here. We don't want them going somewhere else. So we need to build some areas where they can move to and younger families can come in and afford it. We need to do something that's the same as Palos Park in the east part, keep it the same in the west part. So I hope that helps you a little bit, clarify some of it. It's interesting when we have these two reports because they've never really been utilized. The people didn't realize that. And they keep going back to, we want 1 acre, but we don't have 1 acre, we only have 30% 1 acre. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
I just have a couple of words and then I'm done, all right? Because you folks have been sitting here waiting to talk, and you all don't want to hear us ramble on and on and on and on and on. So let me say this and then I'm done, all right? When I first heard about this proposal, I hit the roof. And I'll tell you why, because I thought it was premature. We had just annexed this stuff, and I'm like, what are we doing and why are we doing it? If shovel ain't going into the ground, what are we doing? All right? Finally, after a bunch of yelling, screaming, and hollering, because folks know I'm really difficult, they finally said, look, all we're doing is this. Right now we have a blank piece of paper. And we want to draw on that paper. And we want to draw here, 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 and here. It doesn't mean that it's written in ink that can't be erased. None of this stuff is etched in stone, all right? And if for 1 minute I thought we were trying to do something that I didn't feel comfortable with, then it ain't gonna happen. I guarantee you that. I got my start in this village advocating for houses on 1 acre lots. A developer behind me wanted to build 2 houses on a lot that was 1 3/4 acres. We got together with our neighbors, we came before the council and we said, heck no. We actually used a cuss word, but we said, heck no. We don't want to do it that way. So, we prevailed. However, the developer then built a McMansion to get back at us, okay? So these are the things that we are trying to correct. In your neighborhood, you don't want a McMansion. Out west, we don't know what's going on out there, and guess what? We will probably all be dead before a shovel hits ground, all right? That's it. Yeah. but let's face it, developments don't happen overnight. They don't. So while people can get anxious about this stuff, all I'm saying is, slow down a little bit. We are you. We aren't going to do anything that we think will harm you or our standing in the community. I don't want people throwing stuff through my front window. I really don't. I've lived for over 20 years. I like the way things are. You want to go west of Bell Road and start fooling around? Hey, knock yourself out. Just don't fool around with east of Bell Road, because then you got problems with me. All I'm saying is, give us a little time, give us a little patience. We are not going to do anything without running it past you folks first. And finally, here's the big thing. The village doesn't own that property. It's privately owned. So we have to respect the wishes of the people that own the property. If you own property, you don't want somebody coming in and telling you what you can and what you can't do with it. Provided you follow the code, you do with it what you want to. That's Palos Park. At least that's the village I moved into. So I'm not changing it, all right? We got this piece of paper, which is that, a piece of paper. That's all it is. So we don't need to get excited about something that ain't gonna happen, at least in the near term. That's my comments to you. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So I'll allow me, Agony, for just a couple more seconds. In the interest of public disclosure, my name is Dan Polk, and I live on 2.93 acres in Poston Rail. I lived here for 7 years before I met someone who didn't say, is that in the village of Palos Park? Yes, it is in the village of Palos Park, but I happen to live west of the Grange. I'm sorry, I got here late in the game. Here's the deal. I would love the western annexations to look exactly like Palos Park does right now. But I defy you in a sentence or two to tell me what Palos Park looks like right now. Because it's a lot of different things. But the thing that resonates with all of us, I'm sure with all of you, I would be surprised if there's someone here saying, we should build skyscrapers over there, I like the way they look, is the preservation of open space. If I could afford to live on 50 acres out there, I'd live on 50 acres out there, except I'd have to cut the damn grass. I cut my own grass. I love cutting my grass. I plant my own trees. I eat my own food. I love Palos Park. I didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, how can I screw the rest of the world? I know. We'll put all this stuff in the western annexation and drive Palos Park into the ground. For those of you that know me, you know that that's the farthest thing that could possibly happen. For those of you that don't know me, why not come to a few events and meet me? I'd be happy to talk to any of you. Any of you who reached out to me, I'll reach right back out to you all. I'm going to ask you a favor. If this goes forward and as the process unfolds, and it's going to go forward in one way or another, and it's going to unfold in one way or another, show me the same enthusiasm, show me the same excitement, show me the same passion, whether I'm dead and gone, or someone else is sitting in this chair, or I'm still sitting in the chair. It's important to have people involved in the process. It's also important that those people understand what the process actually represents. We're all in this together, folks. There's a song like that. I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate your passion. I was elected to represent the best interest of the village, and I believe the people in front of me believe that as well. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, as you may or may not be aware, the development of the Western Growth Area Master Plan has been discussed, has been in process for over 1 year. Because there's a number of residents here that I think would like to speak, we'll recognize a period for citizens and visitors' comment. So, unlike other towns and villages, we do not ask our residents to submit questions in writing 24 hours in advance or put other onerous requirements on our residents. Just simple things. Just ask that you make your comments as succinctly as possible to allow time for other interested commenters, and that you do not repeat what has already been said by others. Also, keep in mind that we are asking you to provide your comments. This is not a question and answer format, okay? So, what I'll promise on the other side of the dais is that we, in turn, will listen carefully and consider your comments thoughtfully. I want you to be assured that the village council has reviewed, each one of my council members has reviewed all the materials, the petitions that we got tonight, the plan commission meeting minutes and correspondence sent to the planning commission and village council regarding the draft plan, some of which I was still getting 720, 725, still getting comments. We love this village. We're interested in this village. And I'm also very committed to an open process. So with that, I would like to entertain anyone who would like to come up and address the village council. And we just ask that you state your name before you make your comments. You don't have to give your address.
Well, my name is Michael Cohen, I live on 93rd Boulevard. I think there's a bit of a rush to judgment here, and it's disturbing to me that you all agree so wholeheartedly and pitch softballs to this gentleman. I think we're going to overdevelop this, and what the plans that I see, although they're not plans, and I know it's so far in the future that we're all going to be passed away by this time, so we don't have to really worry about it. And that you all have our benefits at heart and the benefits of all the senior citizens, because we don't want to leave in the town. This is all about making money. We know this. It's fine to make money, but at what expense? I moved to Palos Park because of dark skies at night, because of the coyotes, the trees, the trails. No business, I don't have to grocery shop here in Palos Park. I can go to godforsaken Orland Park to shop. You don't want this to be Orland Park. You want this to remain Palos Park. That's my opinion. I don't know about anybody else here. But I think we're rushing to this. I think we're in total agreement. I don't see any questions from the board that challenge this gentleman. We've got these ridiculous plans. It sounds like you're going to throw the whole thing up. I just want you to think about this. I don't think anybody's really thinking about this other than the fact is, can we make money? Can we make the fire department bigger, the police department bigger, the streets and sand bigger? It's all about, why do we have to develop? The whole reason that Palos Park exists is because there's no. I think we're making a mistake, and I think we're not thinking this over good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Paul Zanis with 1020 on 31st Street on the west side of Palos Park. I've been out here since 1986, I think I stand corrected. After I heard about this, I kind of knew about it. I didn't know Accelerated contacted me. I had to find him, and I did find him. In 1999, I had hired an attorney along with an engineer who resided in the village, Howard Brush. And I had 2.5 acres out west. I wanted to turn it into a PUD. I don't know if anybody was understanding that back then. Anyway, I was jumped out of my seat when I saw it. I'm glad it's interplaying. Sewer and water, now because sewer and water is there, that it's time for it to hit 1 acre lots. Bottom line came down to it. It came down to it on 2.5 acres to put 3 homes up. Got denied because it came back. Thank God it's in writing. Thank God I have a powerful attorney who's on TV quite frequently. I informed him of what's going on here. trying to find out why they're telling me, they told me no back then, and then it got reapplied back in 2012. And got approved for 2 lots, and I'll stand corrected on the date, but around there. When I got told no, sewer was there. I annexed it, the sewer was there. Yet you're pushing for the 1 acre. The reason I was told no is because Palos Park, I think it's in writing, from the village, is going to remain a 1 acre residential site rule. I don't know about the percentages of what, less than an acre, quarter acre, so forth and so on. I'm just going by what I was told. So with that aspect, I'm not the only one that was told that, the only one that gets presented.
Mr. Bassinis, may I interrupt you for 1 second? Do you have a comment on the plan?
I have a comment on the plan. I'm against anything less than 1 acre lots. That's my comment.
Okay.
If I was told no, then it's no. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Manguano. I live with my mother, Susan, in their home, 88th Avenue, and on 23rd Street about, that's my address. I've been all over the world to a number of different countries, Guatemala, England, Mexico, all these places, and I have residence in the city of Chicago, and I do very much believe, I moved here in 1993, and so I call Palos Park my hometown. I do believe that 1 acre zoning is the more humane option for people who want to build a life in the United States. Quarter acre is going to limit your ability to grow food, as Mr. Polk has spoken about. And I think we need to recognize that even with 1 acre zoning, people can find certain living arrangements and accommodations with one house on the property that can accommodate many people and build a life together. And for my own personal life, our extractor pump for the sewer just failed today. So the fact that sewer and water are out there, part of this plan, doesn't necessarily guarantee that the quarter acre development is going to be any more sanitary or environmentally friendly than it would if it was 1 acre zone and sewer and water were there. Failures in those systems happen all the time. I think that in this great village that we have a responsibility to be creative with our solutions, and we have a responsibility to the environment and to our neighbors in the other townships to find sort of oblique solutions to these questions. So rather than quarter acre zoning, could we come up with a new building code for the 1 acre zoning, which will accommodate more people without changing existing zoning that we all ostensibly know about? That's the only comment I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Angelo Smith-Hopeless. I've been in the area with my wife just over 25 years. We've raised our kids in Palos Park, out in schools. We love it here. You put up a chart earlier in your presentation, and it kind of showed where single unit homes, single occupant homes, and 2 occupant homes are on the rise versus multiple occupants, like 4 or 5, 3 or 4. And realistically speaking, we came here because we're families, and that's really what drove us to Palos Park. I don't know if, and then I'm going to get to the plan in a second, but if you go south of 135th Street, it gets really crowded really fast. It is a little bit of a sanctuary that we live in here, and we all want to preserve it as obviously as we want to do. My concern of the plan is of the higher density potential if you start building homes for 1 and 2 occupant people. You're going to have a situation where you're going to be overcrowded with what's going on just south of us in Orland Park. Right now it's very crowded, and they're not that far away from us. And I think coming to Palos Park has a strong balance of being away from a higher density area than where we're at right now. So my point in the plan, I know we need to put a plan together at some point, but I think the plan that is still a little bit too broad, and it would be nice to see how the plan has an effect with the, what is going on around us. Obviously, we can't control what's going, we control what's only inside Palos Park. What's going on around us is also having an impact in the area. If you have too high density in Palos Park, you're really going to be really similar to Orland Park, which a lot of us are not there right now. So that's really my point is on the plan. I think it's a little bit too broad. I think it needs to be revised to look at what the effects of nearby neighborhoods are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to first say that we're going to submit a resolution to protect citizens' property rights to you to look over, so that we're hoping that you can read that and sign it, just to ensure that whatever plans are going forward, property rights for the citizens of Palos Park, and possibly those who will be annexed into Palos Park, will be protected. And I know I'm looking at the elected officials more so because this affects you as well. So this is a document, I've done research, my own research, on these development types. And I did attend, John was really nice answering a lot of questions at the open house. And I have found some similarities that I've recognized that are going on around the nation. What I discovered is, just my own research, is that on the West Coast, on the West States, in the West States, these developments are being implemented. They've been implemented there many years before they've been implemented here. And what I discovered is that a lot of what was being told to the public was grandiose, as everybody says, and it sounds great, you know, we're going to have future growth. That was a big thing. And it turned out that a lot of these developments went up. You can look at Anaheim, you can look, they're also in Texas and Austin, they're in different areas. California's gotten hit very hard with these developments. And what happens is they're all the same, they're all similar, they all have the high density. I know they're not considering that here. When we say proposed, that's a loose term because many of us said, even on our social media, and we're all saying proposed development plans. So there is a difference. It's not a proposed actual plan, it's a development plan. And that's what we've been referring to. So what we've discovered is that with these plans that we're going around, if you look at, all you have to do is you can contact other towns, their mayors, their councils, find out what happened within their town. What I have discovered is there are a number of mayors and councils that have now pushed back on these plans. I'm just advising you as our representatives, our elected representatives, to please do your due diligence way more thoroughly than just what's being told to us. Because what they have found in California is that a lot of the buildings, they were all going up as leasing. Everything's going up pretty much as a leasing building. They do the mixed units, they do these subdivisions with the smaller homes, and they're all packed together. And they're starting to call, and there's a term called for them called stack and pack. So what's happening in California and other states is that a lot of these developments are not being built. So what the trend was, they said, was for everyone to be, they thought there was going to be a lot of millennials coming in, not wanting to use cars, wanting all these beautiful bike paths. Turns out that's not what they're experiencing there. And it's causing a lot of problems. In fact, I believe in Anaheim, this is what had happened. They actually had to take funding from their police, all your services, to fund this train and bus building that they built, thinking that they're going to have future growth. And all these developments that are up that are vacant, literally, there. I mean, even in Norwood, if you just look not too far from here, you can see that a lot of the restaurants that go up, they're up, they're gone. And maybe somebody else might, even some of the classes aren't even filled. So in other words, they did their planning too. Their vision was, they had their vision done way before we had one. The comprehensive plan that we have, just about there are so many states, the American Planning Association and the Regional Plan Association are working for the America 2050. I don't know if you're familiar with America 2050? Okay.
Yes.
And you see the map of America 2050. There are no state lines. There's mega regions and mega cities. All the developments that are going around the nation and around the world, these are not just U.S. related because they stem from the United Nations. They are being implemented all around the world, but in our nation, the goal is to create larger cities. So they're mega regions with mega cities. That's what's going on. That's what all these developments are. They're all, if you look over to California, Texas, I think Idaho, even Virginia, there are a lot of states that have had these impacts greater than we have had, because this is kind of where we live here in the Midwest. You kind of have these, they've had them from like, I think in the 90s or 2000s. So when they started implementing their plans. And they're all called comprehensive plans, and they're all stemming from certain, they have certain ties with grant money. Have we received grant money for signing up on a comprehensive plan?
Not a question and answer period.
I know we haven't had any building because we're a smaller town, and now we have the annex area, so I don't know how that's going to work, but if we receive any grant money for this?
For what?
For development plans.
Do we, not in connection with this plan? We have in the past for comprehensive plan work.
Okay.
Commercial area master plan is funded by a grant line.
And that grant is from?
Illinois Department of Transportation.
Okay, so they're part of the American plan. Okay, well, I just want to leave this with you.
Sure, please.
Also, I do want to stress that, you did attend training meetings with the American Planning Association head. I watched that video. And I do want, if we can allow me a little bit more time, I do want to stress that we, as residents, prefer that all the decisions are done, I know they're transparent, but I think that when they're coming from facilitators, it's not the same.
From where?
Facilitators, people who are presenting these ideas. The training meeting, if I watched the whole training meeting and it explained on how you should conduct the meetings to present these, you had attended it, Mayor. And I found that some of the information that was expressed was not in the interest of how I would, or anybody would want. I mean, I'm talking to people, they would want to be heard. I think there's standards that they're following. I know the person on the video said that there's standards and you have to compare that to personal feelings. And if you watch it, I don't know, you're not.
I'm not following you.
Okay, so I forget the name of the person who was down. She was speaking and she said that in cases where people are going to be bringing out their personal feelings about community issues regarding the development, that you always have to listen, be courteous. However, the standards are what guides you. So my question would be, what are these standards?
So,
You can explain that.
as you might have heard me when I first invited public comment, there are many villages that say, you can give us a comment. I just want it 24 hours in advance, and it better be inviting.
Okay.
We don't do that. And the reason we don't do that is because we're small, and people expect to pick up the phone and talk to the mayor. They expect to come to a public meeting and talk as long as they want. And pretty much, it has been our tradition to let them do that. And the feeling is, talk, get it out. We're listening as carefully as we can, trying to follow you.
Okay.
And, any research that you have regarding the issues, we'd love to see.
Okay.
Obviously, we're looking at our own sources as well. But,
If we reached out to other towns to see how that worked with them, their plans, how they
yes, of course.
do you have a list of the towns that you spoke?
Okay. Do you have any other comments? Again, not a question and answer period.
Appreciate that, appreciate the time, and I just wanted to say thank you for all your service and everything. I know you guys are looking out for our best interest as well, and you live here, so just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, it's my turn. Okay, does this work?
Close enough.
I am not a resident of Palos Park. Everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, good. My name is Greg Gabrielson. I live technically in Lamont. And I'm the homeowner association president of the Equestrian Estates. We all know Equestrian. 240 homes, 1 acre lots. I want to make a couple points. Number one, this whole deal, and I really want to address the community as much as you mayor, but when this whole thing started with coyotes, eagles, etc., we didn't like it. It looked like a scheme. We paid attention, we went through it, and I'm a retired business owner, and you pride myself on being pragmatic. Seeing where the deal is going, we open the door to your mayor, especially to Rick. And what started out was kind of a distasteful circumstance, from my perspective. And ended up with a positive relationship with Palos Park. I didn't know, I knew Palos Park from at the Rainbow Community College. Smoke weed in forest preserves. But I didn't know the village at all. And for the last couple of years, we were in your communication. And it's been delightful, frankly. You got a nice married, a really nice old reactor.
Now we're going to have to pay him more. Come on into the village, we'll see what we can do.
That's the way to John Road. No, seriously. But a couple of things from an outside perspective for you folks. Number one, the Equestrian has been a target annexation going back 3 mayors. And the door, quite candidly, and I was on the board of Independent, the door was never open correctly with us. And there's more to do this, or we're going to do that. Quick roll call. We all know what that means. And just throw out all the communication and quite candidly, I mean, as the property exists to some side of our subdivision, is forest preserve in McCarthy. You touch me, there, right across the street, northwest corner of McCarthy and Bell's Village will not, they touch me, I go annexed home. And I keep the door open, they're not, and I'll say this as a resident and the president, not necessarily representing the voters in the Equestrian Estate. If I ever get all that, come to you first. And hopefully get what I want.
Fair enough.
312 years. And I want to see up there. Rich.
Who benefits the most from high density? The landowners. They saw the chart, 36 homes instead of 14 on an acre. When am I going to sell that acre to the developer? Beecher and Bill is an example who's building in Vermont. What's that acre worth when it's 36 homes instead of 14? Double, triple. So this benefits the landowner big. I don't know about real estate taxes. Is it better for the village income at 36 homes on your zero lot line? I mean, I just got my bill, we got a good county tax bill, and I want an acre and a quarter. You got the house, you got the land. It doesn't benefit, I expect it might. But you have to make assumptions on the value of the home. So it might be that the village is advantage. Like density. As a neighbor, I get it. There's going to be townhomes, like old stacked condos. In part, diversity from our perspective would be nice. Some have, some maybe acre. The way it's done, the planner said, the way it's done is critically important. He says that with nature, work that with trees, stick with coyotes, with real mice. Usually about that.
Careful.
I know. Usually about that. But, I know it's not cast in stone, I know it's not scribed in the wall. The one thing I'll take exception to, listen to the village with Noel's stuff, listen to the village with Lance plan, and you planners must go to the same column. Your stuff sounds just like their stuff. And we're all making assumptions on over 55, we're making a ton of assumptions on the levy. Having friends with millennials, some children, some grandchildren, it's interesting to watch the evolution, and this is my small little microcosm. They grow up, they get out of college, they live downtown, they own bicycle, they're vegans, they're right. Then they get a girlfriend and they live together, they get a slightly different apartment downtown, and she gets pregnant, it's a true story. She gets pregnant as first kid after 6 months, getting the hell out of downtown. So they moved to LaGrange Park and did a condo.
Near the train.
Near the train. And now the kids are older now it's tomorrow, I got to look at school systems. And what do? They buy probably the kind of house we all grew up in. They grew up in Beverly, Illinois. So they buy a single family home. And why? Because they want a dog and they want a backyard. So, candidly, I think this guessing that market, I played market. I mean, that's why I can know that. Guessing the future is no different than assumptions you can make on stock. I can look at today's close, and I can look retrospectively at historical data, and I can try to make assumptions. But I don't know what the future is. So be flexible. Keep us in mind. Somebody needs to Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Who's next?
Hi, my name is Michael Hayhoff from 119 and 14. I think this should be slowed down. This is like a historic time for Palos Park. If we make a mistake, we can't go back. Once we lose it, we've lost it. To me, Palos Park means something. It needs some two developers. Doesn't want that Palos Park neighborhood. That means a lot more to the village, people, residents. People, you hear people's comments like, I don't have to have a summer house. Palos Park is a summer house. People like, hike, bike. We're going too fast. Talk about the 1 acre lots. The zoning, that 1 acre zone started in 1946.
It's the 50s.
In the 50s.
So how many acre lots, how many less than acre lots have been sold since then? That's the time you should do that percentage. The time we enacted the 1 acre zone. This village started as a summer house village. This house is off 119th Avenue, and a lot of people get like 4 tax bills because it was meant to build for the World's Fair, small houses. George Blount's project. He just took 4 tax bills. So I think this should go back to the voters. The PLCC would help. We can dig up information. The Prairie Crossing is a good example. We're setting the bar very low right now. All year is 2 to 5 houses per acre. Plus the zoning is good. We want for the senior living, but it's got to equal 1 acre. You put 10 houses on an acre, that means 9 acres should go in green space. We can work it out, so we can't have a 1 acre zoning intact. We still have villas and row houses. So I think we should revisit this, do a little more studying, and I think a lot more studying. Prairie Cross I've been there, it's very efficient. They were going to put 2,400 houses in. They started with 360 and 30 condos. So I think that's where we should be looking. If you want apartment buildings, condos, just go down Wolf Road, they're there. This is a very unique area. If nature stops here, we got great meetings. We have to protect this. That's why people move here. They want this. We're a small niche, and they're our buyers for that. They want to live in this small niche. We got all these other subdivisions you can move to. Orland Park, Palos Heights, okay. So I just think we should slow this thing down. And, I think the people are more aware now. I apologize for getting into the game late. Give us more time. I think we can come up with more better ideas or you actually help. That's why I'm saying.
Thank you, Michael.
I just got 2 quick comments. We moved here 3 years ago. My son and my daughter visit us often. They love our house. They love Palos Park. They both have plans to move here. And I both cautioned them as of today, because I just recently found out about this, to think hard about this. Because Palos Park, these plans is going to change forever and not for the better. And my other comment is, whatever we decide to do here, we should have a referendum where the people vote on whether we want this or not, and not get this stuff down our throat for some shovels.
Thank you.
You know what, before someone comes up for a second time, I'd like to have everyone who wants to speak come up and address.
My name is Ralph Miller. I've lived here since 1975, lived in Andover since 1971. I'm very, very happy to raise my family here. And again, several of you I know. And Nicole, I know you're involved with Palos Conservation. And through your wife, who's a member of Palos Conservation, I've got to know you and certainly respect all of you. I want to thank all of you for your service. Because it's something that I know you're not getting rich very quickly for doing it, but there's no doubt in my mind your intentions are to make Palos Park the best that can be. When Mr. Reed suggested, he mentioned the word why. And to me, that's something that's very, very important and a very, very key point. Why do this? And I look at it in a couple of different ways. One, does it make Palos Park, President Palos Park, better? And And secondly, does it do anything to add value to the residents of Palos Park? Because obviously you're representing us. And to me, I can live with whatever decision you're making. If in your mind you feel this is going to be something that's better for Palos Park and for its residents. Let me comment one other thing, okay? Bigger is not always better. I know that when I get on the scale in the morning. And it's something that, to me, some of the nice quality things about Palos Park is it is not big. And just being able to make it bigger doesn't mean to say that we're going to be better. And again, I'll just end my comments by thanking you for your service, and it's something that I really appreciate, the representation that you do give us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
My name is Nancy Miller, and I also live in Palos Park. Been here for 40 years. It's in Pheasant Woods. And we bought an acre of land. First we paid for it, then we got to build the house we wanted. Okay? It wasn't a planned unit development. My house is not like the one next door with a different color frame and a window in a different spot. It's our house. And we made mistakes, but it's our house. We built it the way we wanted to. I look out my side windows, and I don't see a house. I see green trees. That's why I built my house here the way it is. That's what I like about it. I want you to consider, it's called the Corsi Report. The Conservation Committee had a report done by Don Corsi from the University of Chicago on the degradation that happens to present homeowners when density around them increases. And we sent you a copy of the Corsi report, and it's been quoted many times. And I will say one thing about it. It says that the degradation due to dense housing in an area, town, will result in a loss of $250,000 worth of property value to the present residents. Okay? Degradation in dense building will result in a loss of $13,000 per house, or 6.3% property value. Now, this was a report that was done in 2000 by a very respected researcher. And what it says is that you put dense housing anywhere near larger acre lots, and it decreases the value of those homes. You can look at the report, you can make your own decision about that. When you quote things about Palos Park, see, the western part of Palos Park, we all spread ourselves out in the 1 acre zone. Palos, Pheasant Woods, Old Creek Road, Coast and Rail, we're all 1 acre.
Sort of.
No.
It's not
For
true.
the most part, we are. I had to be 1 acre. I didn't have a choice. Okay, I had to.
I live in Post and Rail.
Okay, well, you're at least 1 acre, right?
I'm 2.93.
Okay, so at least,
But they're not all that way.
Every single home.
Fair enough.
in my-
Let's let Mrs. Miller
I'm sorry.
speak.
Every single home in my investments is on 1 acre. Some of us are here. It was the way it had to be, and we love it that way. I see no benefit to commercial development in Palos Park. Look at 131st and LaGrange Road, that shopping center. You know what I see? Empty stores, all right? We're not filling commercial. Not only that, but brick and mortar stores aren't the way to go. We don't need to build commercial. Restaurants, I don't need to have a restaurant in Palos Park to go to. In fact, I like to get out of Palos Park to eat. So we don't need restaurants here. We don't need commercial development here. Cluster housing sounds great, unless you're in the cluster. You're in the cluster, again, you look out the window, you see a house. You got to walk away to see open land. You know what I see when I look out my window? Open land. Okay? Is all my land perfect? Absolutely not. There's spots where water gathers. But I can deal with it on my property because I have an acre of land. If I only had a 1/4 acre, or I get rid of that standing water immediately by filling it in with dirt. I can accommodate all these things that happen to a home because I have 1 acre of land. I can watch the deer, I can watch the birds, because I have 1 acre of land. You build homes on 1/4 acre, that's gone. It's completely gone from your house. It's completely gone from the development. I don't want to move from Palos Park. I gotta tell you something, okay? I'm 75 years old. Oh my gosh, she's not. Somebody say that.
Not that old.
I'm not moving. I cut my grass. I'm on that lawnmower cutting my grass. I don't need anything smaller. My kids moved out, and I thought, gee, I got these bedrooms. Hey, it's great for storing all my things. I'm not going to move out. I don't want to move into a senior development where my food comes on a tray or I can go down to eat on the menu. I'm not moving out.
It's not a senior development.
I don't want to live in a development where everybody's rooms and condos and all the same. I want to live in my house the way I built it, and I'm going to stay in it, even though I'm old. All right, so I don't like people saying, aging in place. And I guess maybe I do like it because I'm going to age in the place I'm in right now. I'm not going to move to a senior development. And you can make fun of me.
No, I'm saying aging in place means you stay where you are.
Mr. Palos, who said it's not a senior development. I want senior development.
I live in a senior development.
With all the
That is not a...
Let's let Mrs. Miller give her opinion, which is just her opinion.
You're right, Mayor.
We may agree, we may disagree, but let her speak.
This is conservation design, again, we do it ourselves now. We conserve resources on our acre of land. We don't need rules that say, we'll cost the road and there's no land. I'm a little concerned about when you talk about the density in the village, because I'm thinking in the western part, west of the Range Road, the density there is not 30% 1 acre. It's way more than that. Okay, you're talking about Old Palos Park, and I love Palos Park, I know that. But in the western part of Palos Park, the density is not 30% only in 1 acre. It's way higher than that. I'm not going to bet my life on it, but I do think that it's much more. And you're talking about building in the western sector. That's where we live. So I think it should be contiguous to what our homes are like in the western part. We don't need a variety of housing. 1 acre housing is fine in the western sector. It's great for us. Why change it? I don't like to see Palos Park changed. I never like anything to be changed, but I'm asking you to reconsider. If I'm a builder, and I think I want to build something out in Palos Park, I'm going to look at this western growth plan, and I'm going to turn to page 30. I'm looking at it right here, page 20. Okay, and I want to develop in Palos Park. And here's what I see. I see these row homes. Huh. That's interesting. Then I turn to the next page, 32, and I see more row homes. And then I turn to page 33, and I see more row homes. I don't see any white acre homes at all. Then I see the next page, apartments. So I want to develop in Palos Park. This is what must be what they want me to do in Palos Park. It's in their plan, so that's what I'm going to do. I don't see anything in the plan that says 1 acre zoning. So maybe Palos Park doesn't want 1 acre zoning. It's not in the Western Growth Plan. Anyway, I'm finished. I've spoken many times, you've heard me many times. I want Palos Park to stay 1 acre zoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am certain that we have more people who would like to speak. Please don't be shy. Again, I'm going to just ask you, please don't repeat yourself. Keep it succinct. Thank you.
So the M word has been used like twice, millennial, to describe people about my age. And I think there's a lot of guesswork in development and city planning and urban planning about what we want. And the only way that we have to interact is either like tracking cookies in our smartphones or surveys, which don't really get the point across. From my experience, we live very rigid lives from our birth up until 18 years old. We go to school, we're on the school bus to go to school, the bell rings, that goes on for about 8 different classes. We get back on the school bus, we go home, we see our parents, we eat our meal, and that repeats until you're done with high school. And if you go to college, then you sort of enter that treadmill of like, well, that process will willfully continue until you're done with your education. And now I have my master's degree from the University of Chicago. People are still telling me that I'm not done. And I applied to medical school. I spent about $3,000 doing that. I got rejected from everywhere. And I still haven't applied to law school or PhD. So what I discovered in my own life, as one of these so-called millennial people, is I want like less structure and less of what the quarter-acre zoning and the urban planning for that would be, and more of the ability to just like walk from place to place and enjoy the environment, and less of a scheduled day and more of like, incidentally, I have work here and I don't even mind doing it, which is where my life is about now. And I think that if you were to engage millennials in this sort of discussion and get more input from them, they would probably express somewhat similar opinions. I know I have some friends in the city who are living in the presidential towers, which is extremely high density. And even though they seemed somewhat satisfied with it at the time, they started moving to lower and lower density, and now they're out near Wicker Park, and presumably they will continue moving to lower density zones. And to us and to people immigrating to America, there probably is this dream that we can walk anywhere our eyes can see, and I think that that should be an integral part of what the village becomes.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken would like to speak before, I'm not going to mispronounce your name.
Because it's the A family. Sorry about that. Yeah, I won't ask any questions. I have two other things. I'm just going to hand this up to you.
Sure.
Because I don't want to take up everyone's time. But one thing that I want to stress that a lot of people have been saying is we ask that the planning development meeting announcements are consistent and posted and made known to the public via township website, social media outlets managed by the township, mailing notifications, and additionally any other media outlets thereafter. I know in some cases, public hearings are put in the newspaper somewhere. Some newspaper, I don't know if they're, I know that the last one coming out of the village, I think was an open house. I found out about that one, that's the first time I ever heard about the Western Road Plan, and I found that on a social media group. So we were just asking you to do that, and then I'm going to put, there's like an appeal here to the village, that the elected officials asked possible considerations regarding the Western Road Plan. The other thing I want to say was, so preserving the area and conserving land doesn't always equate to, I guess, high density to me and to many does not really equate preserving land. I think what it comes down to is, it's not really even whether it's a 1 acre lot, the space that you have on your home. I think what it is the essence of wanting to have a community where you have a balance, you have a backyard. People want that. There are people who do want that. There is leasing and high density. Usually high density has to at some point sprawl upward, because if you're conserving all the land around you, you can sprawl outward. And what I have come across, again, if you look at the states in the West, all the sprawl is going up, even in the suburban areas. So there are a lot of, like the buildings in Orland, they're pretty much going that route. So there are these developments in the compact homes There aren't really garages. A lot of them don't have garages. This is the beginnings, and obviously you just have a plan put up in place, but a lot of these plans end up being that. And I'm just cautioning our elected officials, please keep your eye out for that. I think that would be it, and I just want to give you this.
So absolutely.
The other thing I do want to say, and I'm just going to read, there was the Village of Palos Park annexation meeting September 23rd of 2015. And Mayor Mahoney, your number 3 point, I just want to read it out loud. The annexations will not result in high-density housing, and some opponents claim, we have no desire or plan to change the special character of our village that places high value on open space, and neither do the private landowners. There's one, but I wanted to quote that, because I think that was very important, and I commend you for saying that. I hope we can try and follow it. Thank you.
Thank you. And please feel free to forward your research, send me emails.
It's really not up to me to, I think as a resident, I mean, I can share my input. However, I do think that every council member should have not only looked at research that is being given to them, but also I recommend even pulling up searches about town hall meetings in other communities. You learn a lot from the town hall meeting. You can learn a lot as far as what is going on in other towns and how the impact has affected not just the residents, but also the town's financial status and capabilities, and how the monies are being funneled to support these big developments. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just hand this to you now?
Sure, absolutely.
Good luck.
No problem.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being open. You're very good about social media and chatting too. Thank you so much.
Others on the council would disagree with you.
Others, there has to be,
You need a connection. You need to connect with your community.
there has to be other people that would like to speak. All right, let's move on.
Thank you all.
There's one other point that was raised in the correspondence that I received, and I wanted our village attorney to address it for the benefit of the audience. And that is, I've heard statements, if you change 1 acre zoning, which, by the way, we're not. We've already explained the zoning is not going to change in the western area. We have a process for someone to apply for a change and guidelines, but it is not changing. But I've heard the statement, if you change zoning in the western annexation area, you are going to diminish Palos Park's ability to enforce its 1 acre zoning elsewhere. Can you address that issue?
First of all, the comprehensive plan amendment is not a rezoning of any property, and that's the most important thing. There is, as Mr. Houseel said, a component of this that would come next, which is creating a zoning ordinance, amendments to the planned unit development ordinance that would then apply to this area west. This plan only applies west of Bell. It makes no changes to the existing comprehensive plan as it relates to those properties east of Bell Road. And so to the extent that your existing comprehensive plan supports what is currently there, which is some 1 acre zoning, some less than 1 acre zoning, some multifamily zoning, that remains as is. The mere fact that you take an area and rezone it, just as when you rezone to do Edelweiss in the park, that didn't immediately say, well, we can't have 1 acre zoning. That's why you have zoning districts. Different areas of the village are designed for different zoning districts and different uses, and you can maintain your R1A, 1-acre zoning, which, as was stated earlier, is the current zoning for all of the property that is covered by this Western Growth Area Comprehensive Plan at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. I did get some consistent comments. I wanted to address that issue for our audience. I'm going to try to find my way back to my agenda amidst all these plans. So, Commissioner Reed, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, I do. Staff has recommended approval of the draft Western Growth Area Master Plan. On a motion to recommend approval of an amendment to Chapter 1222, Official Village Comprehensive Plan, to revise the comprehensive plan adopted on December 7, 2009, and to incorporate the Western Growth Area Master Plan as an official document, subject to the condition that the maps on pages 13, 15, and 45 be amended to accurately reflect the existing and proposed land uses. The Plan Commission, our designee, has reviewed all of the information propounded to it. They have made a recommendation to the council to approve the Western Growth Area Master Plan by a vote of 5-0 with 1 abstention. Based on the recommendation of the Plan Commission, I would ask my fellow council members to adopt the motion I'm about to make, to direct staff to prepare an ordinance amending Chapter 1222, Official Village Comprehensive Plan, to revise the comprehensive plan adopted on December 7th, 2009, and to incorporate the Western Growth Area Master Plan as an official document. And the motion that I've just made will include the condition that the maps previously referenced on pages 13, 15, and 45 be amended to accurately reflect the existing and proposed land uses.
The one thing that was not discussed previously was the open space ranges in that document, and I think John was going to discuss that with the village council.
Yeah.
So again, the plan is a guiding document, it's not a regulatory document like zoning or PUD rules, but it's meant to provide flexibility as ordinances are crafted and development is considered. The plan as it currently reads states a range of, a target range or a desired range of somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40% open space to be something the village should strive for. We got some feedback that there might be a preference to see that be 20 to 30%, not 30 to 40%. And looking at some other developments, and looking at this, again, giving a guide, I think ranging it from 25 to 40% might be a more appropriate one. The reason being, some areas in the Western Growth Area are, I wouldn't say encumbered, because it's a good thing from a development perspective. Environmental amenities are sometimes an encumbrance because it's less areas to develop. Mature stands of trees, wetlands, creeks, things like that. Can't develop those and preserve those. So when developments come forward that have a lot of that, percent open space would likely be higher than, say, a portion of the golf course that need to be converted to development land. It might have less environmental features on it that would need to be protected. So some areas of development, as they go on board, would have higher percentages of open space or environmental features. Other areas of development might have lower ranges of open space. So we would amend or consider the board recommend a range of 25 to 40% open space. Right now, it's 30 to 40%, but some areas, because of how they are developed or likely to be brought on board for development, would need a slightly bigger range for development. So we suggest that the open space requirement be changed to a guide or a target roughly a range of 25 to 40%, not 30 to 40%. And that's just to accommodate the range of different environmental areas, environmental features, and different things like that we have to accommodate as development comes online. But it's solely dependent on a specific development that comes forward. We don't know what that is yet, or how a piece might come forward. It's not going to all come at once. It's going to cover this piece, then that piece. Some pieces might be fairly covered with environmental amenities or features, and other pieces might not be covered at all with environmental amenities.
The environmental features count as open space, though?
If I have, let's say, again, yes. So if I have a 50-acre piece of property and Palos sells off 50 acres to be developed, it may very well be that 50 acres, 30 of that has to be preserved as open spaces. It's got some wetlands and heavily forested areas, but maybe an assisted living development goes on back in the woods or something. So.
But that would automatically fall into the parameters anyway.
Correct.
Right, yeah, the way you were presenting it made it sound like almost like we needed to give up more open space because of the amenities, and I just thought like the wetlands and this and that, but they are actually part of the open space.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make sure we were clear.
The open space range that we're targeting is meant to accommodate the preservation of the natural environment and the features. And in some places that are likely to come on board, the slightly wider range is more viable and more likely than other areas. So a slightly wider range would represent and reflect the range of topography and features that are out there as pieces, individual pieces come on.
Gotcha.
It provides a little bit more flexibility, that's all. But again, it's still a guiding range. It's not codified, it's a guiding range.
So if it's not codified and it's a guiding range, what difference does it make?
Again, and remember, we may, in terms of strict regulations, not in terms of letter of the law, but when you put something in a plan that says we're targeting this range of open space, the developer's going to look at the lower end as their target often, not always, and residents or the village may look at so we're going to say we want 40%, we want 40%, the developer says we only have 25, and 30 to 40 is a pretty a big range for some of the properties that would like to come in. So we just look at the discussion is based on some feedback we got, we need to widen the range. We wouldn't recommend it going from 20 to 30, but we think 25 to 40 is a better range. So a little bit bigger than we have now by 5%, but it doesn't reflect some of the comments we got back, desiring much less open space. We don't think we should. But you're right. So a developer can make the case and says it's just a guide. The board of planning commission can choose to deviate from that anyway.
So my personal opinion as a council member of the Village of Palos Park is not changing at all.
Let me ask this question as a follow-up to Commissioner Polk. The master plan currently has 30 to 40% in it, right? Open space. So that's in the plan that we would be basically adopting.
As is right now.
As is right now?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're proposing is, in order to give us a little bit more flexibility, to put it in the plan, it would be 20 to 45? 25 to 40.
It's a nominal increase of 5%, but again, the way the planning and development ordinance is written, we'll refer back to this document as a guiding document, and site development allowances in that process, variations, if you will, would allow you to deviate from whatever range is in there, if the applicant can make a compelling case.
The Plan Commission are experts, and I haven't heard from them on this issue, so I have to go along with Polk. I'm not willing to address that issue right now, pending further information.
Yeah, I think it could be easily handled when we start talking about the PUD going forward. If I was going to expand it, I'd expand the hell out of it, make it 25 to 50%.
So I'm not going to modify the motion that I've just made. I'm going to just leave that out. So do I need to repeat it, or are we good? And I can just get a second. Tom?
There's no change then.
No, there's no change.
change.
You made a motion, there's no change.
No.
Second.
Any other comments before?
I just have like one short comment. Listening to everyone and the things that they said, there are just a couple things that, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way in that Mr. Halsey and his firm are hired by us to look out for Palos Park's best interest based on the guidelines that our staff and our planning commission and the council gives. He is experienced, He is, a leader in this industry, using the cutting-edge tools of this industry. I think he's putting together something that's really remarkable and could possibly help us guide going forward. I certainly don't feel like there's any rush to get to this point today. He's been working on this for over a year. Before November, this stuff was on our website. We've had meetings. It's a guiding tool. It's a tool for all of us. There's nothing that is, you must follow everything that's written here. To me, before I got on this council, different things happened in town where property that we sit right next to left us because they couldn't develop.
Are you going to shake your head at me all night? Good, because I was going to, as a physician, I was going to ask you, don't eat it.
Are you ready?
We should talk about it, you're going to stay.
Okay. We're going to reconvene. As to Commissioner Reed's motion,
Back in session.
as to Commissioner Reed's motion, I would like the clerk to take the roll. You want to redo it? Just to make sure we have it on tape. To reread the motion.
We'll do the whole thing.
I move to direct staff to prepare an ordinance amending Chapter 1222, Official Village Comprehensive Plan, to revise the comprehensive plan adopted on December 7th, 2009, and to incorporate the Western Growth Area Master Plan as an official document, subject to the condition that the maps on pages 13, 15, and 45 be amended to accurately reflect the existing and proposed land uses, and I would seek a second.
Second?
Hearing a motion and no further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Polk?
Yes.
Commissioner Milovich Walters?
Yes.
Commissioner Purpose?
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney?
Yes. Do we have that on tape? All right, moving on. Information updates, Public Works and Streets, Recreation Report. Commissioner Milovich Walters.
On a low note, everyone, the chili cook-off is coming up. Oh, come on, that had to be funny, sort of. Okay, so it's this Saturday, February 15th, so after you've had a sweetheart time Friday night, you should come for chili. If you want to compete, you can enter for $20 a team or $25 the day of if you show up at the doors at 8 a.m. and say, I decided I want to cook. You can drop off your application between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, with a check for the $20, and that's at Village Palos Park, at our rec department, 8901 West 123rd Street, or you can email jschultz@palospark.org, and you can always call my director, Mose Ricky, at 708-671-3760. So that is if you want to register. Now, the fun stuff is when you want to come eat. Okay, this Saturday, the 15th. Doors open at 12:30. Tasting begins at 1:15. It's only $5 to walk around and taste all these different chilies. There'll be about 20 to 30 teams participating this year from multiple states, because this is at the beginning of the competition season, so they all show up to get their points. We award first through third and the People's Choice Champion, who will walk away with $100. Makes you want to compete, doesn't it? Palos Park's Women's Club is hosting a concession stand, so if you maybe want like a hot dog, you want to put that chili on top of it, or you want some chips, or you want a soda pop, They're there for you. We also have live music. If you haven't heard of the Thompson Duo, they have shared the stage with acts like 38 Special, Eddie Money, God rest his soul, Father Act, Cheap Trick, Bad Company, so, you know, they've been in good company, bad company, you know, they're coming out. So, I don't know, I'm trying to dance like a joke.
You know that's Eddie Mahoney. His real name is...
Did you watch these TV shows? Yeah, it's like... Okay, we gotta thank the public for sponsoring.
See you later. We're going.
Okay, so come this Saturday. And then lastly, if there's another snow-related event happening, but you don't have an emergency question, but you just have like a question about the snow, you can call the Public Works Garage at 923-7170, after hours and on the weekends, because usually that's when it decides to snow and you can't reach anyone here. So you can call them. That concludes my report.
Building and property. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Mahoney. If you hire landscapers to work on your house this spring and summer, please remember that they need to be registered with the Village of Palos Park. The 2-page contractor registration form is to be filled out, certificate of insurance submitted, as well as registration fee paid. Thank you for registering to work in the village. If you need assistance with the contractor registration process, please call 708-671-3733. The Building Department processed 12 permits from January 27, 2020 to February 5, 2020, resulting in $16,173.02 of permit fees. There were 6 inspections performed during the aforementioned time period. Madam Director, do you have anything to add? Thank you. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Public Health and Safety, Commissioner Polk.
Respect for the hour and other people's important time. We had a lot of calls for service over the last 2 weeks, and the next copy with the cop is a week from Wednesday. That's all I got.
Thank you. Council Finances Commissioner Oblanis.
I actually have no report this evening and no announcements to make.
Thank you. I am going to pass on my report. Clerk Aragorn, who have you this evening?
No report, but I'll be very brief. We did meet today, from that today, and because February is President's Month, I had a gentleman who came, this is pretty much the election history of our president. But we started with Jefferson, and then we went to talk quite a bit about Lincoln, but about pretty much the effect of how each president influenced our country and the rest of the world, basically. It was really, I think we learned an awful lot, and talked a lot about, we ended with Obama, but we talked about Kennedy quite a bit, Nixon. That was really interesting. So there was a lot of good information that he shared with us, and the people really got into it, and I think we all learned a lot today. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Manager Bain?
I have nothing for the good of the order.
Good job. We have no announcements this evening. Citizens and visitors connected, anyone have any final thoughts?
I'll pay you not to.
Hearing no such request, I would seek a motion to adjourn at this time. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all, and good evening.